We are your financial partners, and today you have three of us in the house that are helping you and guide you to your personal and financial wellness. And in fact, I wanted you to invite you to our website, which is actually getting pretty darn good. I love the information we're able to give out on our website. It's donandgino.com, www.donandgino.com, and you can hit the listen live and chat live in the upper right-hand corner. Now, bear with me today. It's our first time we're trying to get this chat going, but I see that Mr. Don Getling is visiting us remote in the chat room.
And hey, Don, tomorrow my alma mater, University of Albany, plays Duke, and let's go Great Danes. Even though the sportscasters all are talking about Duke playing Louisville, we're hoping for a tournament spoiler in University of Albany.
Well, and I told Don that he better place a bet on that one because I'm sure the odds are real good. Hey, Don, put in the chat room what the odds are on that game for us, will you? Well, just before we left, we were discussing with Lou the rules that we should have in life before we purchase something, and I think this is a absolutely critical way to live, and I think that you'll end up down definitely the road to financial wellness if you take this into consideration when you buy something.
Well, I've always taught to my clients, and I raised my kids this way, that there are four things you should always think about before you purchase. It's like, want, need, and afford. Like, want, need, and afford. Like is, you're walking through the mall and you see that bauble in the window and you go, I like that. And you take out the credit card and you buy it. Okay, so I like that, I want that, you charge it. Okay, that's really easy. That's what
the American way.
That's the American way. That's what malls are built on. It's that spontaneous purchase. I'll pay for it later, and that's kind of what the last economy is all built upon. Need and afford are far more difficult to grapple with. It's like, well, do I need that? You can always trick yourself into thinking, I need that. Can I afford that? Now, there's the more important question, because when you ask, can I afford that, you have to say, is my house payment made? Do I have savings? Do I have retirement? Have I taken care of all these things? And even though you may only be buying another pair of shoes, and it may be your 200th pair of shoes, you have to ask yourself, can I afford that? And that's the more difficult question. And the trends that I'm seeing is that people, even those who haven't seen me, are asking themselves that, especially in business, because there's really no liquidity out there for business.
Yeah, I think that's actually a great point. There's no liquidity. It's not that there's no liquidity. Well, let me translate that. It's not that there's no liquidity. It's that it's very hard to obtain capital for growth.
Yes.
So it needs to be organic.
Yes.
So it needs to come from profits.
And I think that that November, December, January, and pretty much February also, it was a really interesting time, because what I saw with clients was that they were being squeezed for cash, and they were squeezing others for cash, and those people was, and there was all of this squeezing going on because there was no safety valve to introduce third-party money into the system that would have kind of made the thing flow a lot better.
So from my perspective in the escrow side of things, I'm recognizing a trend where people are coming out of a real deep hole.
Yeah, they are.
And I think I realize human nature is what it is, but I'm hopeful that what I'm seeing is an indication of people finally learning a lesson, and where they've been, they don't want to go back to. So the rationale you're suggesting is being adapted by more households because they've had to make do with less, over a significant amount of time.
Right.
And consequently, when their businesses are doing better, and things are lightening up a little bit, they don't want to go back to that same old habit again. So actually learning from where they've been, which is significant.
And I think that people are not inclined to base their business decisions on a what if. I think they say, this is the way it is now, this is the worst case scenario, I'm going to build my business model based upon what it is today. If it gets better, I'll then reevaluate my business model. But I'm not going to base my business model on a what if, and that what if doesn't happen.
So if you just tuned in, you're listening to a little financial discussion about, I think, financial discipline in this country, not only by individuals in their homes, but also financial responsibility on the side of businesses. And we're discussing that with Lou Esbin with Esbin Law, the debt doctor, and Steve Korn with Newhall Escrow. And I think the critical piece there is that you're saying that maybe we're like the children of the Depression and we've changed our habits.
Well, let's hope so. The only thing is that if there's three legs to the chair, the consumer, business, and the bureaucracy, I don't see where the bureaucracy has learned anything.
Yeah, in fact, they're spending at an enormous rate. Enormous. Now, some will make the argument that that's why the economy is recovering, right? That's an argument that's on the table, is that this stimulus, this spending, this government bloating of the balance sheet is the reason we're all doing a little bit better now than we were a couple
That
of years
gets
ago.
back to the QE discussion.
It sure does. And the question there is, where does it take us, like you mentioned, inflationary problems in the future? The reality is that we have been desperately trying to create inflation. An economy needs 2 to 3% inflation yearly for growth. In fact, if you look at historically, GDP and inflation are somewhat in line,
Right.
so you need inflation.
They need to be. That's the goal. That's where we're driving the numbers to be.
But the other part of that is that you need real income to increase. And we all know from statistics that real income has not increased since 1972.
Yeah, that's an interesting piece. And so how do you fix that? I mean, we don't see that. I don't see that getting fixed anytime soon.
I think it goes back to the fact that households are restrained, and yet they're willing to loosen up their pockets a little bit and buy things that they haven't bought in a while. But I think it's going to be a restrained growth on the consumer side.
I'm looking at people spending smarter.
Smarter.
You know what I mean? I realize that now everybody's up there buying brand new cars. They're buying used cars. They're buying cars that are considered by ordinary standards less than desirable, and they're just driving them until they die, and they got another one just like it.
And they're holding on to their cars.
Yeah, for sure. And I myself included, first time in my adult life I've owned a car for more than 3 years. And I'm on 7 years on the same car. So
Right.
it's, but just because I like the car too.
Right.
Let's be clear here, Steve. That's no ordinary vehicle.
I like the car. So, I've used some fiscal changes in my way of thinking in that car, because I would have ordinarily just turned the thing over and gotten another lease. You know what I mean? But I realize I've learned through the example of others that that's not the best financial way to go. And I think the consumer across all of our professional careers is waking up to that. More people are applying for refinances than ever. More people are applying for investment properties than ever. More people are starting new businesses than ever. And hopefully we can touch on that a little more, Lou, because that's a big part of the economy that we're seeing as well.
And I'm seeing more people coming to me and relying upon my expertise in counseling them on how not to fail.
Yeah, I actually want to really dive into that. So you joined us discussing financial matters that I think are critical to us in our local economy on the Don and Gino Real Estate and Finance Show. And if you have an opinion, we now have chat roll available for you.
Do we get the odds on the Albany game?
Not yet. We're waiting for Don Gatlin. He's probably having a drink.
Oh, he's waiting for one to come. That's it. Yeah, waitress hasn't come by yet.
So I'd love for you to join us at donandgino.com. Join us on the chat roll, and I'd love to have you join us in our discussion. Now, you mentioned earlier that business filings are up, and I wanted to know if formations. So that means the entrepreneur is back, right?
I think they are.
Yeah, they are. So they're taking more risk, and it's not just because of job loss, because I know for a little while there, the only reason you had startups was because people had lost their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the driving force now, or do we just see people that have been entrepreneurs in the past ready to take a little more risk again?
I think it depends upon the age group. I think that what I'm seeing is the age group is between like 50 and 65.
Oh, wow.
Who are really, they're almost excluded from the employment market because of their age.
Right.
Okay? Dare we say?
Right, no, that's fair.
And so they're taking their years of experience, and maybe they were an executive at a company. They are now starting consulting companies, and they're going back to their former employer and saying, I can consult for you. And they're taking that expertise and doing things like that. Sure.
I see quite a bit of that, quite frankly. I belong to an organization called Vistage, and quite a few of our members are consultants. They've spent their 20, 30-year career in one particular sector of a market, and they're turning their entrepreneur interests around and either retiring out at a younger age and then getting back into the workplace as their own employer.
In a different way.
In a different way,
Right.
offering their services back to their field of interest. So that's quite a big trend, actually.
Yes, it is.
And it can really develop into quite a large organization if they don't watch out.
Well, that's excellent stuff, and when we get back, I definitely want to discuss how not to fail. Let's get into that, Lou, when we get back to the Don and Gino Real Estate and Finance Show on your hometown station AM 1220, KHTS.